So let us start. We are now in chapter 13. We are starting a new section. Okay. It's about Kshetra, Kshetrajna and Prakriti, Purusha, whatever, our relationship with the material nature. Before that, let us pay obeisance to Sri Radha Govinda. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Nananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmitam Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manavishtam Sthapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuttapada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vittam Tam Sajivam साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखन वित्तंश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनो बंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसूते देवी प्रणमामि हरि प्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धवेव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्ति वेदांत स्वामीति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जयो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण. So let us start. Actually this chapter we are starting with a new section, how Prakriti is related to us. Okay, our interactions with the material world, right? And then it starts off with, so far we learned about bhakti, no? Then the last section, chapter 7 to 12, where Lord Krishna described bhakti yoga along with he gave us some nature about our jiva, the Lord, matter, how they are related. Because we looked at the energies, the superior energy, the inferior energy, and the Lord's vibhutis and everything we learned, and how Arjuna had accepted him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? And then in the last chapter 12, we looked at the different stages of bhakti, perfections, okay? And the topmost one. And the Lord was so merciful. He says, if you can't do that, do sadhana bhakti. If you cannot do sadhana bhakti, at least do nishkama karma yoga. If you can't do that, at least you give some charity and all that. And again, if you can't do, at least do dhyana, meditation and thing. But being mode of goodness. That's what he gave the level. And it is not Madhava Seva is Manava Seva is Madhava Seva. No, we saw that. It is somewhere in the 40s. So the top. So Anyanya Bhakti. So after that, he gave all. Then we describe the qualities of pure devotees. Now this section starts off. See, Arjuna is now completely understood, and he has said, I know what you think, but he wants some more clarification because he is talking from our platform of a conditioned soul. So now he's giving some 6 questions. He wants to know about Prakriti, the Purusha, then Kshetra, Kshetrajna, what is knowledge, and what is the object of knowledge, Jnanam. So first, Krishna doesn't talk about Prakriti and Purusha. He talks about Kshetra, Kshetrajna, and then gives the knowledge, that is about knowing about the relation between Prakriti, the Kshetra and Kshetrajna, process of knowledge and liberation. And then it answers the object of knowledge, Neya, right? And then the last from 20 to 35, he will talk about Prakriti, Purusha and their union. And how, and he gives the Jnana Chaksha. Because here, the Jnana which you are getting, it leads to Bhakti. So what happened? Chapter 1 to 6, it was about karma yoga, then action on the platform of knowledge, perfection of action. So we talked about karma yoga, how yoga will lead to bhakti. Actions performed to please Lord Krishna. Then in chapter 7 to 12, it was more on the bhakti yoga itself. And chapter 13 to 18 is going to be on knowledge, how perfection of this knowledge will lead to bhakti again. Okay. So actually, Bhagavad Gita is all about bhakti only. And we are looking at why is culmination, why is jnana presented in the last 6 chapters. But in truth, the entire Bhagavad Gita is bhakti only. How first 6 chapters, as I said, discuss how to achieve bhakti through work. Last 6 decides through knowledge. And in 12th chapter, Krishna explained how he personally delivers his devotee from the cycle of birth and death. He said, if you fix your mind on me and do everything for me, then the last 6 chapters provides the philosophical knowledge necessary to escape from the clutches of this material. How, and he gives that jnana, how to get out of the entanglement from this material. And it seems it's helping our sisters between detaching from Maya and attaching to Krishna. So it also leads to bhakti. Okay, it becomes a part of bhakti. So what is this? So in topics of Bhagavad Gita, we said 5 things. We talk about Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kala, and Karma. Jiva also comes from, part and parcel of the Lord, Supreme Lord, right? And from Ishvara, from the Lord only, the Prakriti also comes, material energy. We saw that. But Jiva, when it's conditioned, then it comes under the influence of the material energy. There's through karma, activities are there, interaction by the Jiva. It have a body which is suitable for the material world. And through that, there'll be interactions. That is karma, activities. So these were the ones which we discussed. So we'll focus now between this, Jiva, Prakriti, and karma. Okay. So, Arjuna said, oh my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, that is nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, the field, and the knower of the field, and of knowledge, and the end of knowledge. Then said, this body, this Sharira, is called the Kshetra, field. And one who knows this body is called the Kshetra, knower of the field, that is the Kshetrajna. Okay? So, Prakriti is the nature, Purusha is the enjoyer, then Kshetra is the body, that is our Sharira. Kshetrajna is the observer in the body, that is soul and super soul. Both are there. Jnanam, knowledge, understanding Kshetra and Kshetrajna is known as knowledge. And Neyam is the goal of knowledge, is Paramatma. Okay, who is residing in each body. So this is like, Prabhupada gives a very nice analogy where you have a field and there's a farmer there who is sowing the seeds and things. So this farmer, and there's a son, okay, there. Actually, there's a king and he would have given a lot of pieces of land and all to different citizens in the world. In that kingdom would have taken the land from him and they'll be cultivating. So this farmer, when he cultivates in this field, he will know what are the seeds he has sown. So he know what he's going to reap, right? But the king will know everything about all the lands, where all these farmers are there and things. He knows what they reap, right? Same way, Paramatma, who is residing there in each of us, he knows what is about our activities, our desires, our interactions in this world. And he is situated in everybody, in the hearts of all the living entities, the immovable. So he knows everything, what is happening. Whereas the farmer knows only about his land, like we know only about our interaction with this body and interaction with the material world. Whereas Paramatma, who stays there, he knows everybody. Okay. So this analogy helps us to understand that. So what is this body? For whom it is given? Who gets the body as a field of activity? Is the condition. So because we want to desire to enjoy, we got attracted to the material world. The jiva was sent to the material. So he gets a body depending on the set of material desires. And why? Why does he get this feel? Entrapped in material existence because of his attempts to lord it, because he wants to enjoy independent of that. So he was attracted to it. So he's, and then what is the criteria to get a body? It all depends to decide which body he'll get according to the capacity to dominate the material energy. So depending, so they would say tailor-made for a set of it, and he will get that particular capacity to, according to the capacity to enjoy sense gratification, one gets a particular body to function accordingly. This is how the body is come. And knower of the field, Shaitan, how to understand the difference between body and the knower of the body? It is based on the, see, the body keeps changing, no? The phases we saw, the 6 transformations. But we know that we are there as a child, and we were there as a boy, then as a growing person, and then iteration as we grow old. So we are witnessing the changes in the body. And who is that? That is a soul, intuitive understanding that we understood in the 2nd chapter itself. So what is we are learning about this knowledge? Comparison of knowledge in the 3 sections of Bhagavad Gita. In chapters 1 to 6, we discuss the knower of the body and the position by which he can understand the Supreme Lord. Because we know, since we are the part and parcel of him, our constitution position is to serve the Lord. We are the servant of the Lord. And our position is to go back to the Supreme Abode. Okay. Then in 7 to 12 discusses the Supreme Person of Godhead and the relationship between the soul and the super soul in regards to bhakti. Because we said only devotional service will help us to go back to the Supreme Abode. It describes the superior position of Krishna and subordinate position of living entity. And then also we saw how people approach the Lord, they surrender, and who doesn't surrender. And then he explains in this section how living entity comes in contact with the material nature. How we got entangled here, and how living it is delivered by the Lord through different methods. So this is how we come to understanding in this various sections. Okay. So from 13.2 to 7, he answers the questions of Kshetra, Kshetrajna, and the Jnana. Kshetrajna chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajno jnanam yat tat jnanam matam mam. O son of birth, you should understand that I am also knower of in all the bodies, and to understand this body and its owner is called knowledge. That is my opinion. See, in this picture which you see, there's a person is talking on the phone, and while one is talking, he's using his materials, body sensors and all that, and he's talking, have a conversation, another person is active. But even the soul and Paramatma is still there. But when he goes to sleep, the body goes to sleep. The mind is still active. Okay, that you'll have some dreams, and you'll be doing many things, even you will be smelling, or you'll be going some place, and all that mind is still active, and you will realize. But when mind also goes to sleep, both the deep sleep, still the soul is active. That's why when the alarm rings, you're able to immediately hear. So this is how soul and Paramatma will be there in this. And he'll be there in all the bodies, living entities, whether it's an ant or a tree or a plant or thing, he's there in every species. Okay. So living entities are known as Jivatma, whereas God is, as mentor, is known as Paramatma. And we are very small, Anu, and he is big. And we know only about our body, cognizant, whereas he is there in every living species and everywhere. So he is cognizant of everyone and everything. And we are only secondary proprietor. Like citizen is a proprietor of one land. The king is the proprietor of everything. So super soul is the supreme proprietor of all the bodies. And we get it. And we are fallible. He is infallible. And we are subordinate to him. He is the eternally loving master. And there are living entities innumerable, but super soul is one. He is the only one super soul. but he pervades everywhere and he lives in everybody, in everything. Okay. So this manifestation of three-step consciousness, stage of semi-consciousness, dreaming, and stage of consciousness, it is not there for the Lord. Lord is transcendental to all these different material stages of existence. You exist, therefore, in a fourth dimension, and your appearance and disappearance do not depend on anything beyond yourself. So you're the supreme cause of everything. And this I've taken from the Krishna book. There is no cause. You yourself cause your own appearance and disappearance. We saw now that is appearance and disappearance is Divya in chapter 4. My Lord, in order to show your six opulence and advertise your transcendental qualities, you have appeared in your different incarnations as fish, tortoise, bull, Nasimha, and others by a personal manifestation, and you have appeared as different living entities by your separate dead manifestations. So by your internal potency, you appear as a different incarnations of Vishnu, and by your external potency, you appear as the phenomenon. So we have taken this. So this is the position of the Supreme Lord, okay, Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then continues to King now, the Krishna now continues to say, Tat Kshetram etcha, yad rakcha, yad vikari etascha, yad sacha yo, yad prabhavascha, tat samashena mesri. Now please hear my brief description of this field of activity, how it is constituted, what its changes are, whence it is produced, and who that knower of the field of activity is and what is influenced. It means the composition and the qualities of the body he is going to give us, and then he is going to take a Et Vikari is the changes the body takes place, the transformations we know, the 6 changes that it undergoes. Then Ethas, the origin of that, and then identity of the knower of the body, and then Prabhava. Prabhava is the powers of the knower of the body. Okay. So he's going to give us a detailed description. And these descriptions are not just what we see in Bhagavad Gita. It is there in Vedas also. So he says this knowledge of the field of activities and the knower of the activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is especially given in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect. So it is not so. Krishna says that he has given this all thing as Vedas in the beginning of the creation itself. And many sages have written it. They have meditated on it and they are able to write about these interactions. It's nothing new. I mean, something which he is giving the first time in this Bhagavad Gita, where he is talking thing. It is there. Vishabhi Bahuda Gitam Chandobhi Vivita Pratak Brahma Sutra Padaishchaiva Hetu Madhvi Vinishchit. Okay, and in the purport, he gives about the Brahma Pancham Pratishtita. That is taken from Taitaitra Upanishads, where he talks about our level of consciousness. Okay, first he talks about Annamaya, where our consciousness is on, we depend on the food, our survival. That's the first thing, how to nourish the body, how is sustained in this material. We are Annamaya Kosha. That is, we are looking only at the food level, how to survive with the food and things. Then once they were all happy with that, then you look at pranamaya kosha. That is when our consciousness, where we are looking at living symptoms. That is how to protect ourselves and the defense mechanism and the shelter, everything. So first we looked at the food maintenance, then our consciousness goes. When these two are satisfied, then slowly we come to the Manonmaya or Jnanamaya section. That is the thinking, feeling and willing, where we be calm and we will think about other things. Because once you are able to maintain your body, your defense mechanism and all is there, then you start thinking, willing, feeling, you are in that mental peace and you're trying to find some happiness. And then start thinking what is beyond, what is our purpose in life. That's when we come to Vijnanamaya, where we start speculating, distinguishing between body and soul. That's when we go beyond this mental platform. That is known as Vijnanamaya. And then Once we go in that, then slowly, finally, we reach the highest perfection, Anandamaya, where we realization of the blissful nature. So this is the level of consciousness which increases as it increases. Okay, so this is given in the Upanishads. So and what is this body we have now? Krishna is talking about the composition of the body and the qualities of the body. The five great elements. What are the five great elements? Earth, water, fire, air, and space, right? And then false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses. The 10 senses are all the knowledge acquiring senses and the working senses and the sense objects. So we have that. Working senses are fire, boy, tongue, hands, legs, genitals, anus. Then knowledge acquiring senses are the ears, eyes, nose, and tongue. And the sense objects are smell. Then what are the smell? Then your sound. Then your form. Then your touch, the feel, everything, right? And then you have mind and the fun. So the interactions between with these sense objects and to the material, then you will get desire or hatred, or happiness or distress, the life symptoms and convictions. All these are considered in summary to be the field of actions. So this is the composition and qualities of the body which he explains. So the central theme of properties that indicates that field of body is a non-permanent material thing. Our knower of the field is different from the field. The knower is different from the body. And components of the field of activities, we saw the five great elements, five sense objects, 11 senses, including mind, intelligence, and false ego, and pradhana, right? Interactions of these gross and subtle body, which will create our desire or hatred, happiness, represented by conditions and convictions, right? Are a gross representation of false ego, technically called as materialist concept. This is the unmanifested form is known as pradhana. Basis of this knowledge is given in Vedas, authorities. Okay? And 6 changes in the body, takes birth, grows, stays, and this is the vikaras. So this is the thing which we get interaction and transformation of the field of activities. So what the fields of activities consist of and explains the transformations and the interactions. So this is what it's all about. And we are conscious of all that. Okay. So now he's going to talk about further answer to question, the process of knowledge and liberation. So this is after talking about the compositions and transformations and all the parts and the body. Now he wants to tell us about the interaction between the body and the lower entities. For that, the process of knowledge and liberation, he gives the 5 verses. There he talks about the, see, this knowledge which the process which is Krishna is talking to us is not like the bookish knowledge. Where in bookish knowledge, when you cultivate it, we understand it is, there won't be any change in the character. But this spiritual knowledge which the Lord is talking about requires purification of the heart. That is, these 5 verses describe the virtues, habits, behavior, attitude that purify one's life and illuminates it with the light of knowledge. So this is nothing like, as you get into book, you understand, you do it. No, you have to practice it. You have to adopt it. You have to make it as your habit, as your lifestyle. That can be done only start purifying. And what are these? I mean, there's quite a big 20 qualities he talks about. He talks about humility. That's the first thing. Amanitva. That means you should not be too anxious to have satisfaction of being. You should be very humble. That starts off with that. Otherwise, you'll never be able to understand. That's a process. Okay. And pridelessness. So understanding you're not the body and thus honor and honor and dishonor are the same because it is not the body. You are not the body, you are the soul. So the humble and pridelessness. Otherwise, what happens? You'll be so proud of your talents, your attributes, and things that will be an obstacle to understanding this transcendental knowledge. Then non-violence, not to put others in distress. Unless one elevates people to spiritual, one is practicing violence, because that is one thing. And tolerance. We practice to bear insult and dishonor from others. Simplicity. We have to be straightforward, that is simplicity. Then accepting a spiritual master, Acharya Upasana. And this is essential because otherwise you will never be able to understand. And he also talked about that that is how you have to approach a spiritual master, and you have to submissively serve him and inquire him about the progress, and then at approach. So this is important. Acharya Upasana. Unless that is like even in transcendental. So he's again talking about that. Cleanliness is external as well as internal. Steadiness. You have to be determined to make progress in spiritual. You will have a lot of pitfall and everything, but you have to keep going. You have to keep determined and you keep progress, continuing in that path. Self-control. Reject anything which is unfavorable to spiritual advancement and just Atma Vinikra. Renunciation of sense objects, not to get unnecessary demands gratified only to keep whichever it is useful for devotional service, you do that, otherwise absence of force. Reject I am the body, mind. So that is the ahankara we have, that I have done it, this is mine, I am this, I am that. So these are the practice, the process. Unless we cultivate these qualities, we won't be able to come into that. Okay. And then it goes on, lot more. Regularly hear about these from the proper source because disgusted with otherwise you become disgusted in material life. Be ready to sacrifice everything for Krishna. Asha. No entanglement. Not means that you become so possessive. You have to do a duty to your wife, children, everything, but you do it in a Krishna consciousness. Even-mindedness, not elated or distressed at meeting. So every time he says you have to not only tolerate pitfalls, tolerate insult and criticism, reversals in the word, misfortunes, but also tolerate happiness. Anyanya Bhakti. Engage oneself in the 9 process of bhakti, that is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Dashyam, and all that. Then aspiring to live in a solitary place, not desiring to mix with materialist people, live in the association of devotees, because that will help you to progress. Detachment from general mass, that is, because that will, you will be again falling into that material people. Accepting the importance of self-respect. Give up unnecessary sporting, thing, which will avoid wasting time. Philosophical rejection of useless research and philosophic topics. Okay. So process of knowledge ends in finally Ananya Bhakti, which Acharya Upasana is important. Humility, non-violence, self-control, detached from general. So these things will help us in the getting this transcendental knowledge. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, cultivation of these qualities is the real method of acquiring knowledge. Anything speculated beyond these items of knowledge is just ignorance. So cultivating this, that is purification. Right? Now, after talking about the process of knowledge, and then, because only then we'll be able to know about our interactions in this material world and all that. And then we talked about the Kshetra and Kshetragna. Now he is answering the object of knowledge. So we have in ourselves soul and the Paramatma, right? Atma, Jivatma and Paramatma. So we need to know both of them. That is the object of knowledge. So that he says in 13th verse, the whole can know the super soul, who is the object of knowledge and who exists everywhere and pervades everything. Super soul has transcendental senses and is a source of all our senses, attached and various. And only devotees can understand the field of activities, process knowledge, and both the soul. So otherwise, so we have to come to this platform. Super soul and soul. I shall now explain the noble, knowing which you will taste the eternal Brahman, the spirit, beginningless, and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material. So he talks about that. Real objects, as describes the first object of the knowledge, is the soul. So what is the knowable? Vijnana Brahma, living entity as the knowable. Ananda Brahma is the super soul as the knowable and knower. What happens if you understand this? Benefit of knowing is one, you can relish the nectar of life. Why we have come here, what is our purpose, and who is there, and he is there with us. So he's always accompanying us. We are not lonely anywhere. Okay. Everywhere now he's talking about the super soul's characteristics. We are learning some more about him. Everywhere are his hands, legs, his eyes, heads and faces, his ears, everywhere this way exists, pervading everything. Sarvata panipadam tat sarvatso shiromukam sarvata shunti luke sarvam avriti tishtat. He is everywhere. Super soul is everywhere. Whereas the soul is only in one body, but super soul is in all. Okay. And super soul or pervading, Srila Prabhupada strongly confirms that this verse describes the super soul and not the living entity. Why we say, just put this thing in the purport? Because people have this wrong notion that we are also God. So we'll merge into him, Brahma Jyoti, and we become God. That is not. Here clearly distinguishes what the soul attributes are and what is a super soul. Okay? And not the living entity. Super soul is the original source of all senses. It is without senses means his senses are all transcendental. With our eyes, we can only see. We cannot even see our own eyes, right? But for him, any sense can be used for everything. It's all transcendental. He's unattached, although he's the maintainer of all living beings. It looks like contradictory, but actually it is not, because he is transcendental. Everything will be beyond our conception, conceivable. And he transcends the modes of nature, same time is master of all modes of material nature. Okay. And is internally as well as externally. And even in Isha Upanishad, he also says the same thing. He is beyond the power of the material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away is also, the minute you think of him, he'll be there with you. All the super soul appears to be divided among all beings, is never divided. He is situated as one, although he is the maintainer of every living entity. It stands the person, big person. He is in everything. He is in the human beings, he is in the birds, animals, trees, and all species of life. But still, he maintains them and delivers them, and he is there everywhere, maintaining. Okay? And it's not that divided, it's one. But only thing it spreads, like the sun, energy, sunlight, you can see everywhere, no sunshine. It is not just in your room alone, it's there everywhere, right? Like that, he is there in everyone. Appears divided, situated as one. He devours and develops. And he is the source of light, okay? Is beyond the darkness of matter, is unmanifested. His knowledge is the object of knowledge and the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. Okay? So now more and more we're learning about the Paramatma, source of all knowledge and enlightenment, beyond darkness of matter, an object of knowledge and goal of knowledge, situated in everyone's heart. So this picture, you should all keep in your mind. That is very, that gives you this whole concept, it's put in this picture, that in the Upanishads. Like there are two birds on the tree, and one bird is busily eating, trying to eat this fruit, that fruit, hopping from one branch to the another branch, trying on some fruit will be tasty and some fruit will be bitter and all that. And when it gets frustrated, it goes to another branch or another thing. Or it will go to another tree, and there the bird also will be there with him. So, but only when it turns towards the Lord, Then he realized the sole purpose. Whereas the Lord is waiting there, asking, looking at you as the thing. So that's the field of activities, knowledge and know will have been summarily discussed me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. So only when we turn, otherwise you are always turning towards Samaya. So if you turn towards the Lord, then He will help you to come towards Him. Okay. So that is what qualification to understand Kshetra Chakrama is to become a Bhakta. Then you will know that who is the knower and who is the where is Paramatma is, and the acquirers of knowledge. Okay. Object of knowledge. So that is the two approaches. So here the Lord describes the broadly two approaches to life. So if your Atma is only selfishly exploiting and enjoying nature, not looking at the God from the thing, then he is excommunicating. That's one way. The other way is where he is utilizing the gifts of nature in the service of the Lord, seeing him as a supreme enjoyer. So then he will, accordingly, he will reap the certain quality of life. Okay. This is what we mean. Knowledge means understanding oneself in Krishna consciousness and realizing Krishna in everything. Knowledge is nothing but preliminary stage of understanding devotional service perfectly. Okay. Vijnana means knower, knowable, and process of knowing is called science of knowledge. Okay. This chapter is quite complicated, but you need to keep reading and reading. Only then. Friends, no. Because I'll be always talking Kshetra, Kshetrajna, knower, no. But if you read it, I think twice you'll be able to understand. But so after talking about all that, now he wants to talk about the Prakriti, Purusha, and how did we come into this world? How did we get entangled? Okay. Material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginningless. See, we are eternal. We have been there with him eternally. How we came, we know, right? That is there on the. When we came to this material world also, we don't know because it's eternal. It's there, you know. So it is as, you can't say I've come here 10 births or 20 births have taken. Nothing. We don't know. Behind our past, how many births we have taken or how many yugas we have been there. We don't know. So it is as good as being eternal, beginningless. And material nature, it is the energy of the Lord, right? It is He creates it and He annihilates it as we see. So that is also eternally there. So when you think our interactions with the material also will be there. So the transformations and the modes of matter are products of the material nature. So how we interact with the material body is with the sharira. Whatever the sharira, it could be the sharira of an animal or an insect or a plant or a tree or a human being. Okay. With that, it interacts with the nature, right? So nature is said to be the cause of all the material activities and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments. Because we desire to come here. So we have to take, that is the accountability. We desire to come here. So we have to, whether the soul is the one which will be feeling the happiness and distress. Whereas the body is just doing the activities, it interacts with them. So if, depending on that, if you want, then you take, depending on our desires and our interaction, reactions and our karma, we get that particular body in the next birth, right? So we are the instigator. So we have to be clear on this, that activities is a material activity, because once if you are born as a lion, then your activity will be bounded by that material nature. You'll be eating only flesh and this. If you are born as a cow, you'll be eating only grass. But if you are in a human being, that is your conscious level is different. Then you start able to understand everything, because you are at a higher thing and you'll be able to understand much better rather than being bound. So it is our choice to be with the material world entangled, or you want to get liberated. Okay, that's a choice. So this is the chapters. Living entity follows the way of life according to the three modes of nature, right? Desire to enjoy, forgets the bond between Purusha and Prakriti. That is the thing. Then association with the material nature leads to different good and evil among species. That is how you'll have happiness or distress, and depends on which species you will be born to. So he talked about the soul and the interactions with the body, right? With the body it has taken. Now, what is the Paramatma who is there in each and every living? What it is role? That is been explained in this particular verse. Upadrashta anumantascha bhatta bhokta maheshwara paramatmeti chapi yukto deyasmi purushaka. Yet in this body, there is another transcendental enjoyer who is the Lord. Okay, the supreme proprietor who exists as the overseer, permitter. So Upadrashta is the overseer. So he is seeing everything. He knows your desire. He knows your activities. There is no, you might think you are doing, nobody is witnessing your activities and nobody is knowing your intention, your desire. No, he is there. He can understand, he can see everything. And depending on that, you might desire, but he will permit you to do it depending on permission has to come from him. Otherwise, the material body will not take action. Okay? Because it is under the control of the Paramatma. So, Paramita, Anumanta. And he is the master, enjoyer, right? And he's the supreme Lord. And he's the super soul, Paramatma Iti, and Purusha Vijaya, and it's the transcendent. So, once you know this, what the Prabhupada writes in Prabhupada is just give it up. You know your knowledge is there. So you turn your faith towards me, towards the Lord, then you will be happy. Because he's there, he's witnessing everything, he's the overseer, he's the permitter, he's the proprietor of everything, he's proprietor of your body. See, you think you own the body or you know more about your body. You don't know much because all you know is put the, for example, you put the food in your mouth, how it goes there, gets digested, and you know only a little bit, but how it turns, you don't know many things. And anytime he can take away your capability, even to using your hand or to using a thing, he can do anything. So he is a supreme proprietor and he is existing as an overseer and permitter. And he knows your thing, everything, because he's there in you. But we should remember he's the supreme proprietor and he's the transcendental enjoyer. Okay. So if you then you will, once you understand this verse is very important because this will, keeping this in mind, now you will be conscious of what you're doing. And you'll also be conscious, you will never feel you're lonely. You know he's there with you. Maybe that his plan might be different. We think we want something and he's not sanctioning. Maybe he has another plan for you. So there are so many things involved because he knows everything, right? And he's there with us. So that resulting of knowing the philosophy is a liberation. One who understands this philosophy concerning the natural nature, living entity, and interaction of the modes of nature, then you're sure to attain liberation. So this is the philosophy which is the Lord is giving. Knowledge of truly understanding the relation between soul, super soul, what happens, what's the benefit? We get liberated and return to his abode. Understand how the living, and now we are coming to know how we got attracted and we fallen into the material world in a regressive condition. And this is not our board, our position. We have to go back. Otherwise, we will still be in this cycle of birth. We still be in ignorance. So this is the knowledge we are getting. How we got entangled because we got attracted and we wanted to enjoy. So we have come here. But now we know that this is not our true identity. We need to go back. And this we got entangled by the modes of nature. Okay, so precautions. So how to understand our position. So now he is giving us how to understand. He is giving us the chakshu. That is, you can perceive him by meditation or cultivation or knowledge, and others through without nishkama karma yoga. Understanding the various type of yogas. So people are faithful in spiritual life, and there are others. Either you go by jnana, then Sankhya yoga, the cultivation knowledge, karma yoga, without fruitive desires. Okay, there are atheists who are beyond this. They cannot understand this understanding, and the doctor. So Krishna consciousness. This is how the two people. Devotees of the Lord are best situated in spiritual understanding because they know that beyond the material nature are the spiritual world and spirit, who expands as Paramatma. So this knowledge, Krishna consciousness, will help us to be this. Okay? And hearing about the Lord, see, that's where again here Krishna says, again there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. Because of the tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path. See, that is why Prabhupada was very much about the hearing Krishna Katha, hearing, being in the association with devotees who can talk about Krishna, talk about his pastimes, talk about his concerns, all about Krishna Katha. Chanting here is me, hear the Sankirtana, be part of it. Because it is powerful. And it is here, it's confirmed here. The Lord himself is saying, hearing about him from others. And this here in the picture, we see Devahuti. She was the daughter of first Manu, Swayambhu Manu. She was married to Kardamuni. Then when Kardamuni leaves to Vanaprastha, then she takes the shelter of her son, Kapila Muni, who gives the thing. So hearing about the Lord, how to worship and what are the Kapila Muni's, the teachings are there in, I think it is in 3rd canto. So but just listening and think, she transcended the path of birth and death. Okay, it's there in the Bhagavad. So hearing about him, so we might think, why, how do you get this much knowledge? Why, whether I have to read all the Vedas, Vedic scriptures, and go through so many things? No, you don't have to go through all that. Just hear about his pastime, hear from Bhagavad Gita, from Bhagavatam, hear about him, about his pastimes, and Sankirtan thing, and chanting his name. That tendency to hear from authority itself will help you to transcend the path of birth and death. And here itself, we are getting the instruction from the Lord. And then he is giving the vision of knowledge. One who can see super soul living in these matters in their proper perspective sees through the eyes of knowledge. So we know where we are and who is there with us and why we got entangled and how we have to go back. He is the true enjoyer. So whatever you see is existence, both moving and moving is only the combination of the field. Okay, lower of the field. So spiritual realized person can distinguish between spirit and matter in all circumstances. Okay, moving, immovable, non-moving, whatever is seen in existence, only a combination of the field of activities and the mode of it. Okay. So they are all the time, we'll be perceiving this material energy. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tistam parameshwaram vinyasta avinashyantam pashyati. One who sees the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, that neither the soul nor soul is ever destroyed, actually sees. So it continues to talk, elaborates on that, eyes of knowledge, right? So that has to be imbibed into us. That has to take. That takes by starting, taking shelter of a bona fide master, humbly try to serve him and try to get this knowledge. Try to understanding this knowledge will come slowly and slowly till we able to see this. Okay. Always accompanying the industrial is the actual see. How such vision is provided good as. And you might think, why is, okay, if he is in the people who are doing all bad and atrocious thing, why is he there also not advising them? But there we get the answers, in chapter 16, how people are caught in lust, greed, and anger. So then he will tell them, okay, you want to do it, but you won't go to higher planets, but you will go to the lower planets. You'll be pushing them down and down. And then they'll be caught in this unless they meet a pure devotee and then they get transformed themselves and then come out. Otherwise, they'll be going to lower and lower species. And unless you come to the mode of goodness, you will be able to go to higher planets. So that position also, that understanding we'll get in the 16th chapter. Okay. One who can see three things in this proper perspective: the body, the soul proprietor, the soul, and the super as a friend of the soul. That is real knowledge. Okay, that is the eyes with we have. Every living equal everywhere does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus he approaches the things. So unless we come to this platform, Samadarshana, no, it takes, that is the perfection of life. Okay. So he does not degrade himself by pursuing self. So differently than what is the role of the mind? Generally addicted to sense gratification, which binds the living entity, the material world. But when the mind turns towards the super soul, to the Krishna, Lord Krishna, then what happens? You become advanced. Then one approaches the transcendental destination. That's what here is says. Turn our mind towards the Lord. So that's why we are saying towards throughout the thing, the message is saying, right? That is the person is actually seeing. Otherwise, what happens? You get entangled, will never be satisfied. You might think the happiness you got is flickering, but still you will not be completely satisfied unless you turn towards the Lord. One, you can see that all activities are performed by doing, which is created by material nature. See that self does nothing, actually sees. Because you're interacting with the material world through the gross body and the subtle body. Because soul is still there. Okay, it's just acting with that. So you're not doing it. So once you understand that, then a sensible man ceases to see different identities to different bodies and sees how beings are expanded everywhere. He attains to the Brahman realization. That is the first realization of the Lord. In fact, it talks about the lust, how we have to cease from whenever they sense objects. I think how self-control is very important, right? So same here is talking about how this is how beings are expanded everywhere. When you see your position and things, then you will be able to understand this science properly. Vision of eternity can see that imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. It's only thing because that false identity, I am this, you have got attached to this body. Because of our attachment to this body, we get different identities. I am this, I'm a Megan, I'm a nothing. So we have the different identities because the soul is identifying itself with the body it has. Okay. So unless you detach yourself from that, then only you won't get entangled. Okay. So this is what is giving us the knowledge. It's like the sky. It gives a nice analogy. The Lord is giving. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading. Similarly, the soul, situated in Brahman vision, does not mix with the body, though situated in the body. That's why when the person dies, the body has got all the features, right? But the soul is not there, right? It doesn't mix with it. It's not like a thing like, so it gives a good analogy, Krishna, that the sky doesn't mix with anything, although it's there everywhere. Okay. O son of Partha, as the sun alone illuminates. So he is elaborating so detailedly. See the analysis he gives is such a depth. How he is distinguishing how the super soul and how we can see. No, he gives it in all this was very clearly. The Lord is explaining. Sun alone eliminates all this universe. So does living entity, one within the body, eliminate the entire body by consciousness. Only with the soul, how we understand the soul is there by the consciousness. Once the soul leaves the body, there's no consciousness, no, in the body. So it eliminates the whole thing. And the Lord eliminates the whole universe because he's there in everything. One who knowingly sees this difference between body and owner of the body can understand the process. Also attains to the supreme. Moksham cha vidoryanti te param. So this is the chapter. Seeing eyes with the eyes of knowledge. Difference between the body and the non-body. Process of liberation from bondage in material nature. Results, liberation. Attains the body. So this is the whole summary of this chapter. Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Jnanam, Nyayam, and Prakriti and Purusha. How we are related to the Prakriti, how we got entangled, because Guna Sangha by Purusha. And we are the, and how we got the body, and how we, and soul and the Paramatma. He is explaining all that, and how Paramatma is the permitter, overseer, and supreme enjoyer is the proprietor. So I think, so once you understand that, then you realize that this knowledge, we have got this Prakriti because we desired and we came here. And because of that, we have forgotten the relationship with the Lord. And how to see this knowledge, seeing this knowledge, what happens, understanding this knowledge. Through this knowledge, we come to know the relationship between the body and the Kshetra, that is the thing, soul and the Paramatma. Okay. So this is the summary. I hope Hare Krishna, I made it clear. But this chapter is